Hello, everyone. I want to welcome everybody today to our first session in conversation around some diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging topics. Our goal is to do this quarterly and to invite some experts, some of our own internal, external partners and friends and stakeholders to join these conversations. Today, I am thoroughly excited that I am joined by our own Shannon Gerbi and our special guest, Dr. Spataro. And so I want to just take a minute and do a couple of introductions just to make sure everybody is aware of who's in the room. Shannon, so tell us just a bit about yourself, and then what the goal or what inspired us to start these sessions.
Thanks, Tammy. I'm Shannon Gerbi. I'm the Leadership Development Coach and Instructional Design Specialist for Global Organizational Development. And I am also behind the new Percepta Professionals series that launched just a couple of months ago. And part of that series is going to be a quarterly webinar on a topic related to that quarter's micro learnings that go out. So please be looking for those. And we try to tie that in with our Earn program and our themes. If we have any special events for the month, this is Pride Month. There's also Juneteenth, and Allyship just seemed to fit in really nicely in a way to support all of our groups, and also just as corporate citizens here at Percepta, how we can best be an ally, even when we need allies ourselves sometimes. So I'm so grateful that we were able to secure an expert in the field for our first webinar. And I would love to hear what you have to say about that, Dr. Spataro.
Well, first, if you don't mind, I just want to say, I want to introduce Dr. Spataro because not only is she a fantastic and amazing human, I had the pleasure of studying with her at Northern Kentucky University, and she has a trail of letters and experience behind her name. So she is one of the co-founders of Inspire Corps. She is the CEO and CEO and the Chief Perspective Officer there. She's also a professor at Northern Kentucky University, and she runs the Masters for the MBLI, which you can explain more. And then, so she combines a lot of her experience, her academic, her professional, all of it together, and really creates this innovative and high impact development for leaders. And so I'm just really thrilled that we were able to spend some time with her today. And Dr. S, if you don't mind, just give us a little bit more about you and your background, and let's start there.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, just like we rehearsed it. Well done, Tammy. My professional profile is one of real privilege. I'm super fortunate in what I get to do for my work because, as Tammy mentioned, I get to have one foot in the world of real life and practice as a consultant and a coach with Inspire Corps, and work in that company mostly in translating what we know from research and what we know from academia to being usable by the real world, right? Because sometimes that bridge is missing a little bit. So I love getting to do that work. And then my first and foremost calling in life is being a teacher. And as Tammy said, I get to teach at NKU, specifically in the Master of Business Leadership and Innovation program. So instead of a Master of Business Administration, it's a Master of Business Leadership and Innovation. And we do a deep dive into who we are as leaders and how we can bring about the most positive impact according to our values and our priorities and our desires. So it's a wonderfully personal program and a great place to grow in who you are and in your career.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. So we want to start with allyship being our topic. What is allyship? What is it for you?
Yeah, I thought about this question in preparation for today, and I've thought about it personally. I love that you said, Tammy, for you, but I'm still going to go to somebody else's definition because I love it, right? This is from the Director of Diversity Programs at the Mayo Clinic, Nicole Asong Noyim Hara. Two parts of her definition. It's when a person of privilege works in solidarity and partnership with a marginalized group. So allyship comes from the privilege to a marginalized group. And what are they doing together? It's to help take down the systems that challenge that group's basic rights, equal access, and ability to thrive in our society. So allyship fundamentally is about partnership between those who benefit from the system and those who are disadvantaged by the system. It's not about propping someone up or boosting them to a place. It's about walking with them and together paving a new way that is less encumbered by institutions that differentiate between identity groups like race, like gender, like orientation, whatever those different groups are.
So can we be both? Can we be someone who walks with someone in need of that support and also need that support ourselves?
It's a wonderful question, Shannon, and I think it's a great challenge to us. I think technically in the allyship world definition, it really can only come from a person who is in a privileged position, right? But think about our intersectionality, right? We all have many, many identities. So I'm a cis white person, and those are positions of privilege. I'm a woman, which is in the business world, especially sometimes the marginalized role. I'm a Californian who lives in Kentucky. So you decide about those identities, but all the different ways that we can be groups. I make a joke when it's very serious topic. I don't mean to joke about it. Are there African-American people, right, a traditionally marginalized group in terms of outcomes in our society? Are there those who have more privilege than others within that group? I think so, probably. But at its core, purest allyship is about a person from a privileged group helping a person from a marginalized group, working with a person from a marginalized group.
Thank you. So what does that look like? What are some ways that one can practice being an ally if we are from that privileged group?
Yeah, it's really, it takes intention because it involves, for most of us, some unlearning of ways that we're really used to and reevaluating some of what we're doing, right? We can ask ourselves questions like, how much space am I taking up in this conversation? Whose voice in the room is not being heard? Who am I excluding through my words? We three naturally put next to our names our pronouns, which is a wonderful way of signaling inclusion, of aligning ourselves with those who have pronouns different than the traditional cisgender folks. Sorry for my clumsy language. And we do that to say, I am an ally. I am supportive. I understand that people may have different pronouns. I'm telling you mine. I welcome you to tell me yours, and I will respect you in those. That's an act of allyship. It's interesting, though. I went to ally training at NKU one day, all charged up about it. Why do we even have gender categories? It's so fluid, blah, blah, all on my high horse. And I happened that evening to be having drinks with a couple of friends, two African-American women who were starting a business, and they wanted to kind of pick my brain about Inspire Core and learn about some of my lessons of entrepreneurship. And I was telling them about my day. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Can't wait to put my gender pronouns on my email. I need to do it. And this African-American looked straight back at me, African-American woman, where are my pronouns? And I thought, that's a really good question. Here's a great act of allyship we can adopt easily with pronouns. Where's the analog of that for race, right? Where's the analog of that for sex, for other kinds of orientations, whatever it is. And we want to be thinking about those. We want to think about them in formal acts like putting your pronouns next to your name and informal ones. Sometimes allyship comes from what we don't do. I'll tell you a quick story. When I graduated from college, 22 and pretty dumb, I went to buy a car, buying my first car, right? And I was buying a stick shift when I didn't know how to drive a stick shift. We'll go have a beer and talk about that later. But my parents were with me. My dad had to do the test drive because I didn't know how to drive the car I was buying. I couldn't have been more low status, right? I'm a girl. Don't know how to drive the car I'm buying. I'm there with my parents, which signals I'm not financially independent, even though I was buying all these kinds of things. So we're sitting with the car dealer and we're doing the negotiation. This was back when you negotiated for your car. And the conversation went, I say something to the salesperson. It was a man. It was a white man. I say something to him. I want to pay this price. He responds to my father. My father, without saying a word, just looks at me. I respond to the salesperson. The salesperson talks to my father. My father looks at me. I respond to the salesperson. My dad was being an ally by not engaging the salesperson and deferring to me instead. Right? So by taking himself out, he could have said, I want to help Sandra. I want to get a good price for her for this car. I'm all in. And instead he said, kid's on her own. This is her car. She's got to do it. I'm backing off. Where are the places in your day when you can make that same choice? Right? Either to say, we haven't heard from so-and-so, please bring your voice into the conversation, or to just stop talking or be silent and let someone come in who wouldn't otherwise. So it can happen in small and big ways, what we do and what we don't do. Go ahead.
That's a fantastic story that demonstrates exactly the point of allyship, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you so much for sharing that. And it made me think of something you said earlier about it has to be intentional. So I totally agree. It has to be an intentional thing that we do. But I think one step further, we have to think about the impact that we want to have. So your dad's intention was to support you. But if he had spoken up, his impact would have been removed. So we have to think about the impact that he wanted to have was to give you the support without doing it for you.
Right.
So his intention had to match with that impact that he wanted to have. So it's a fantastic story. And I think it gives me a really, really good visual picture. And I'm sure it does for everybody else. So thank you for sharing that. That was really enlightening for me.
We also need to ask ourselves, how are our identities taking up space physically and verbally? You know, what do we presume? What are we assuming in the back of our head that everybody's just going to get because it's so natural to us? I remember one day in class, I was up on my high horse preaching about, you've got to bring your whole self to work. You have to be authentic. And a person of a different race raised her hand and said, my whole self is not welcome at work. I have to adjust myself to be like the majority to be accepted at work. And I was really humbled by that statement. It showed my ignorance of right? And I learned from that. But we have to be open to that. We have to be willing to make the mistake. And then we have to learn from it and adjust going forward. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard because, I'm sorry, Shannon, were you going to jump in?
I'm enjoying your storytelling. I really am. Yeah. I mean, I have some follow-up questions to these, but so it seems like it could be really easy to misstep though. So yeah. I'm wondering, you know, if we misstep or if we are not being an ally because of the fear of misstepping, what are some obstacles that could be barriers to being an ally, and maybe what's some thoughts or advice that you could give to our listeners and watchers around that?
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? Because we're talking about it has to be intentional, but intention isn't always enough, right? I mean, I can be very well intentioned, but be super scared of saying the wrong thing. And so I hold back, right? Or nervous about being invasive or crossing over someone's privacy boundaries. And so then not fully invite them in. My advice to you, to all of us, when we experience that, is to be transparent about it, right? Is to say, I'd really like to hear more about what you're saying about yourself if and when you're ready to tell me. Or, pardon me, I might be clumsy in the way I say this. Will you help me get it right? Here's what I want to get across. I think trying to not say anything until we know it's perfect is not going to work, right? Because how else are you going to learn? So I think you have to go out there and make the mistakes and have a growth mindset, meaning I can learn and get better from this, and know that you're willing to adjust. It speaks to a more global aspect of allyship and any kind of leadership, any kind of good interpersonal interaction, which is being trustworthy, being honorable, right? If people respect your intentions, they'll help you get the tactics right. And that should help.
There hasn't been anybody that I don't think I've talked to where if I approach it that way, they go, no, sorry, you're on your own.
Yeah.
You know, nobody has said that. They're like, yes, let me help you, because like it's a respect thing. You respect me enough to ask, I'm going to respect you enough to respond.
We have to be careful not to shift the responsibility, right? You're gay or you're Black, so teach me how to deal with all people who are gay or Black. That's not fair. But to deal with a person individually and say, Bob, Sally, Joe, here's how I want to talk to you. Amir, Tariq, whatever, right? Those were very, very white names I just said. Here's what I want to get across. Please let me know if I'm saying something that makes you uncomfortable or is inappropriate. I'll apologize up front, but I want to connect with you in this way, and I don't want my fear to get in our way. That takes courage, but it's going to get you a lot farther than wait till I have it perfect and not do anything.
It sounds genuine. You know, when a person is coming from a place of genuine caring, and it comes across, because people have radar for that when we're just trying to make it about us so that we don't sound silly. When we're trying to be perfect, I think the genuine aspect is super important.
It's also, it's not going to get political, I promise, but we're in a time in our country when some of the institutional support for finding ways to bridge inequalities between groups are falling down, right? The Supreme Court just this morning struck down affirmative action. It means the onus is going to be on us more interpersonally. As leaders, we need to carry these mantles forward as individual people in the relationships we're in. We can't rely on the system to do it for us. So everybody notch up your level of responsibility on it one more level, because our society needs us to do that. Not guilt, not obligation, but responsibility, right? When I'm assembling the cohort for this Master of Business Leadership Innovation program, we have 20 plus or minus people that come together. And it's on me to create a mix of different identities and representation from different kinds of groups, not because so-and-so from a disadvantaged group needs me to give them a boost, but to increase the learning experience for everyone in the room. Everyone has a richer experience when we have a level playing field across different identity groups. And so it's for that sake of learning that I want to do that. If I get to give somebody an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have, man, that's icing on the cake.
I love that. And Tammy, I think you would agree that part of the reason that we are selecting topics like this for our webinars is because that level of responsibility has become so great, especially in some of the states that we have sites in and employees in. Just putting it out there that we're here and we are supportive and we're human and we're genuine. As an organization, we need to make sure that that message is very, very clear, whatever political climate our employees may be living in, that is our true core belief.
Absolutely. And I think part of what we try and do in all of our learnings, Shannon and I, we try and humanize the experience, because no one is going to be perfect. And there is always room for learning opportunity. And you have to come with that. You have to come to a safe space. So we create that, but you have to come willing to learn, willing to make those mistakes, and knowing that the people around you are going to support you through those mistakes as we all learn together. And that is one of the things that Shannon and I try and make sure we make as a staple in anything that we do, is we want to humanize an experience because we are human, and to create that kind of experience through all learnings.
Wonderfully said. Absolutely. We can simply ask ourselves, when we're in a position of privilege and we have a seat at many different tables, not who can I replace myself with, but which one or two of those seats can I let go of and give to someone who would benefit from them without disadvantaging myself? It's not about taking a step down so someone can be more equal. It's about bringing more people in. And so it's on us, all of us in whatever positions of privilege we hold, to say, what can I do to be an ally? How can I walk with someone to give them more access to what I naturally have myself?
Wonderful, wonderful
Well
word.
said.
Yes. Well, I do want to take time and just thank you, Dr. S, for being here with us, sharing your time, sharing your knowledge, and helping us grow as people, as communities. And I want to get just final closing comments, but I want to challenge. I think it's important to challenge us all to continue to be kind, to make our first response to be the practice of understanding and the practice of grace, and just practice being good humans. Because at the core, if we are practicing being a good human, I think everything else comes naturally.
I agree.
Those are my words. But for closing thoughts, Dr. S, do you have words you'd like to impart?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to go back to responsibility and say that each of us needs to challenge ourselves to say, what do I want to do differently? What part of what has come naturally to me do I want to upend so that I can bring along someone who doesn't have this privilege that I enjoy? And on the flip side, where do I need some allyship for a place where I'm marginalized? And from whom can I look for that? From whom can I ask for that? How can I help that happen for me in a way that is non-threatening and kind and good, and coming from treating us all well?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Shannon?
Thank you so much. And thank you for the stories that you told today. And I am going to go back and rewatch this later. There was a story in there about the pronouns, and I want to remember that, because I have a learning moment here too that I need to go back and think about. And I really appreciate you taking the time to explain to our viewers what allyship encompasses. It's a term that's come to light and become used a little bit more frequently, but it's not well understood. So my hope is that this piece will bring some greater understanding and connection to the word, and most importantly, to that practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you both for inviting me. These kinds of conversations, I think, are just vital. And it's the first step in mobilizing folks, engaging folks, motivating them. So all kudos to you for making this conversation happen. And thank you for including me in it. Absolutely.
So everybody, please stay tuned. We are going to be doing these quarterly. They will be available internally for all employees. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out. We are happy to field and answer and provide any kind of information that we can. So be kind, be respectful, and until next time, have a great everything.
Bye, everyone.